And it's time for the last speaker, which is kind of an odd subject. It's about launch arguments. So it sounded like something a bit boring, but we received several calls for papers around this subject. So there's got to be something interesting and very powerful in the launch arguments. So MARIN is going to tell us all about that and how they use that. MARIN is an iOS engineer at Lyft, and he will show us live. Thanks, MARIN. Oh, he's drinking.
All right. This talk is going to be about launch arguments, like I said a little bit before. Hello, everybody. So thank you for coming here today and sticking so long. It's already 6:12 p.m. So I'll try to not go too long. I'm honored to be speaking on the first French iOS conference. And please give some applause to the organizers. This wasn't an easy task. Oh, looks like my slides are not up. Computers. Oh, well, way better. Wait a second. We'll come back. All right, so
Yeah.
maybe we should just hold this for the whole presentation. What do you guys think? All right, so yeah, see, if I did this talk on an iPad, it would just work. Maybe just leave it and see how far we get. Don't worry. All right, so this is me on the internet. Like GitHub at SuperMarin. I Twitter at _SuperMarin. I internet on supermar.in. I computer for Lyft. You might have seen Lyft and at one of the recent Apple's keynotes. We basically provide easiest way to get affordable rides from your watch, Siri, phone, maps. And we're also 100% Swift. We're probably one of the first big iOS apps shipped to the App Store, all Swift. So, quick agenda. We'll cover some basics of process arguments, just to be clear what we're talking about here. We'll go over some advanced usage, and then we'll cover some gotchas and unexpected behaviors. Okay, so let's talk about basics for a second. So process arguments are here since Unix. There is a high chance that you have been using them with some system commands or tools like Git. In this example, Git would be the 0th argument, and then add first, second, third, fourth. They're used by the exec family of functions by the operating system. It's used when it's launching binaries or scripts if they're starting with a shebang. In SIM family of languages, you'll see the functions with signature main that take argument count, argument array. There's a few variations of those. I'll show you a couple. Or if you're Xcode, you launch it with this small selector. That was supposed to be a joke. Sorry. So let's go for a quick demo and see how this works within an iOS app. So I'm using the Simple Note iOS app. There was no bias when choosing which app to present with, but this one is open source and you can play with it later if you want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to launch the app as it is, so you can see how it looks like. Oh, wrong screen. Let's try again. First, second. Okay, better. Okay, so the app is all white. It's in English, as you can see. So here, let's first make the app in French because we're in France. So I'm not changing any source code here. I'm just changing the arguments that the app is launched with. Okay, so as you can see, the app is in French. Now I'll override a user-defined behavior. This is not something by Apple. I'll make the app dark. All right, dark mode on. And I'll just show you quickly a couple more examples that are useful with development, especially with localizing and translating your app. So the first one would just show you any strings that are not localized, and it'll make them yell at you. It'll make them all caps. Why is this unchecked? Okay. So as you can see, the trash one wasn't localized properly, and it's yelling at us. And the last one I'll show you is, this one's called NS double localized strings. And basically what it does is it makes every word double. So if it says okay, it will say okay, okay. And this is useful with some languages with longer words than English, German. So you can see notes is double, everything's twice, even the okay is double. So May Thompson says, there's a number of options that can be passed into a target scheme to enable useful debugging behavior, but like a fast food secret menu, they're widely obscure and unknown. So there is way more of these flags for core data, for testing locale stuff, formats. But this talk is not going to be focused on uncovering all of those. Instead, we'll focus on more advanced usages and implementation. So now you're thinking, how does this work? How do I change all this stuff? I didn't touch any code. So in most programming languages, you handle the arguments yourself. So in Bash, you have get_opt or get_opt. In Python and Ruby, you can use argparse or option parser. And if you're coming from Objective-C world, you might have seen this piece of code. So this is the main basically, that's the one I was talking about before. It takes argument count, argument array. If you ever try to do anything in this file, I'll show you this snippet. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just looping over the argument count, over the argument array. And if we filter logs with FrenchKit, you can see that we launched the app with 9 arguments, where 0th one is always the binary name, and then we'll just print out all these args. Also, from now on, I'll be quitting Xcode, and I'll show you the next examples in terminal, mostly so you can actually read stuff and so you can get more ideas how to use this outside of Xcode. So why am I showing this to you? In Cocoa, there's a little magic, and it basically handles some of these arguments for you. Arguments starting with a dash are parsed automatically, and they're injected on top of NS user defaults. This doesn't mean that you need to have these values in NS user defaults, but anything you pass through launch arguments, you'll be able to read as it was in NS user defaults. Also, anything that is stored in NS user defaults can be overridden with launch arguments. So if you can imagine, here we have the app, and we have NS user defaults with storage. It says conference is NS Spain, speaker is MARIN. But we'll launch this app with conference FrenchKit. So in your app, you say NS user defaults, value for key speaker. And as you expect, you get back MARIN. But then we ask for value for key conference. Since this key was present in launch arguments, you will not even look up in NS user defaults. So even you thought you were looking up in NS user defaults, you were not. And you'll get back FrenchKit. So by now you may be asking yourself, what the hell do I even do with this? Like, why are we even talking about this? So there's many useful usages of launch arguments, and I'll tell you about one. I'll tell you how we use the lift. So every time somebody pushes code to GitHub, we run a lot of automated checks. So, sorry, this slide was a little too soon, but we use it to change the app behavior without recompiling, and I'll show you in a second how. But, so in GitHub, this is just a subset. We do a lot of these. For example, we run the code lint, so people don't fight over white spaces. We run owner's checks, we run various deployments. And the one that's important for now is end-to-end tests. So this means we're running real simulators, real devices, against real servers. By real servers, I don't mean we test in production. You should probably not do that. But this picture shows many of the iOS devices that respond on your push. They're hitting a server. So we used to use this approach for a while, and it has some problems. It has some problems with the concurrency. The cache gets unhealthy. Imagine there's 20 developers pushing code. So you spend at least this or more than this number of simulators per push per developer. So today we're spanning multiple servers and simulators with a one-to-one relationship. This did solve all the problems I mentioned before, but it came with a new problem. So how do you point each new simulator to a new server from the same commit? So the first approach we considered was using UI automation itself. So imagine you run the app, you bring up some secret server selector, and then you type the whole URI on the keyboard. So if you can imagine, this turned out to be really slow. So we're not doing that. Also, if you can see this graphic, we'll launch the app in seconds, and then we will waste like almost a minute to select the server, and then we'll waste a few seconds on the test itself. So we need to go from this to something like that. So what are the options? We can recompile the app with the new server every time you push, but let's say the compilation time is around 5 minutes. If we spin 10 simulators, this is 50 minutes of CI wasted. So let's not recompile. Another approach is we can inject the file. So we create a new server boxes. We know the URIs. We inject the file in the bundle, but then we need to add specific code to read this. So this was almost a solution, but it required a lot of specific code for reading the bundle. And there was a third option, which is try to utilize launch arguments. This sounded like a right solution for the task, but there was only one problem. We had more than one endpoint to override, and our server environment was structured as a dictionary. So as you can see, the top key is just a simple navigation Waze. We could just pass -navigation space Waze. It would do it. But then how do you even pass a dictionary as a launch argument? Which brings us to our next topic, advanced usage. So, how do you pass the dictionary? Maybe you can do key paths. That's a convention in Cocoa. So say servers.api is, I don't know, something. Servers.analytics, something else. Doesn't work. Maybe you can do JSON. Servers blob of JSON, and doesn't work. So before I tell you how to do it, let's do a quick quiz. We skipped this one. Okay. So the problem of the day is how do you pass a Boolean as a launch argument? I'll give you 3 options. There's multiple possible choices. The first one, sorry, let me just show you what this is doing. So we're just digging up the value from NSUser defaults. And then if we have a value, and if the value is true, we'll say that user is member, otherwise it's a non-member. And we'll also print out the type. So the first option is member 1? Second option is member true, which is a shell built in, or is member yes? So hands up for 1. Or around 10%, maybe less. Is member true? Almost nobody. Is member yes? It must be yes. All right, let's do this. Can you guys even see this? So let's try 1. No, not member, we passed a string. Let's try true. No, it's a different kind of string. It's a string versus constant string. So it must be yes. I'm sorry about that. I actually lied to you, but I'll show you in a second what it is. So not to spoil the solution, I'll actually show you how to pass a dictionary. So here we have a similar program. That on the top, it just shows that there is a dictionary in NSUser defaults under the key servers. And then we read again. If we have servers, we'll just iterate through each of them and print out the server. So the goal is, you see our code is pointing to API-lib.com and analytics-lib.com. We want to point to staging. We want to do API.staging-lib.com analytics. So if I just run this file, it will print out API-lib.com and analytics-lib.com. But if we pass the right argument, are you ready? What? But it's not all. Wait. If you feel like, so there's also animal mode. If you feel like writing code like animals, you can also pass something else. So this was XML. What is this? No, Jason. It's a plist. Well, the left one is plist as well, but this one is the next step style plist. It's the one that was deprecated in the 90s. But I mean, it works. Look. Okay, so the Boolean solution. Can you guess? Equal yes. No. Something else? There you go. So yeah, this might remind you to this sweet Apple designs of actually through the years. All right. My phone got in a drawing mode. I can do laser, but I have no idea how to get out of it. I'll just use the keyboard. Okay, so there is a reason why Apple went from this nicely looking plist format, which is your PBX project, to the XML style. And that is because this format doesn't handle any NS values. Doesn't handle booleans, numbers, anything else. And it also introduced binary later because XML was too big. So you can store stuff effectively. The funniest part is that you can throw a blob of XML or a plist, and then you can just keep passing arguments like nothing happened, and it'll work. And if you don't believe me, try to launch your app, your own app with this, and it'll work. So effectively what I'm saying is that each time you launch your app, for each argument, Coco is trying to parse XML from this value, fails, tries to parse plist, fails, and then just calls a string or if there's something. If you don't believe me, I can quickly show you on this other tab. So here we pass the plist. I can like break it. And you see what it says. CF property list create from XML data, all style plist parser, blah, blah, blah. There is no special code here. This is in every OS 10 iOS. Okay, so a couple of gotchas. How do I exit? So overriding any values after launch will not work. By any values, I mean anything you pass to the launch arguments, like conference, FrenchKit. If you try to remove the conference or change it, it will not work. So watch out on places where you're reading and writing to and from as user defaults. There's the last example of this I have here. This program basically prints what is the conference, sets NS pane, removes NS pane, and prints every case. So if you run this with a let's just run it by itself. So when we launch, conference is nil, and then conference is NS pane, then it's nil. But what I just mentioned before is if you launch it with an argument, then on the app launch is FrenchKit. After storing, it's against FrenchKit. And even if you removed it from the NS defaults, it's still FrenchKit. So just watch out where and how you use the NS defaults if you're going to use launch arguments. Also, as user defaults is a key value store with the string keys. It stores strings, data, numbers, date array, and dictionary. It also has these helpers. So you probably want to use the helpers. I actually use a small trick when tricking in that Boolean. Basically, if I use bool for key, not object for key, it would say true for 1 and yes and word true. But this comes with the cost. So if you want to be safe, just use those. So string for key, array for key, data for key. But from Apple's own documentation, let's say you're using integer for key. It says integer for key is equivalent to object for key, which we used, except that it converts the return value to an NS integer. If the value is an NS number, then the result of integer value would be returned. If the value is an NS string, then it will be converted to NS integer if possible. If the value is a Boolean, it will be converted to either 1 or yes or 0 for no. If the value is absent or can be converted to an integer, 0 will return. So that many things happen when you call integer for key or something else. I put it up a small table if you feel adventurous and want to use this. If you want to pass like a real number, you need to do the integer tag or real, depending on float or int. Booleans, like I showed you, true, true, false, false. Date tag, but it needs to be in ISO 8601, otherwise it'll be nil. So I would like to say thanks to Lyft for supporting me being here, being a great workplace. I would like to say thanks to Emma, Simone, Nicolas, Michelle, Matthew, and Anne. Please give them one more applause for this whole thing. Also, mandatory slide, Lyft is hiring. In case you're interested in coming to San Francisco, this is our office. Come talk to me. I'm happy to connect you. And that will be the end of my talk. Thank you.
So we received 2 rounds of applauses, thanks to Marin. So Mike, give another applause, just to balance. So we are even, 2-2.
It seems that you used Vim on the stage. Is that provocation?
Do I have a choice? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there any other editors?
Yeah, there are some forbidden editors. Vim or Emacs.
Serious question now. You were one of the first of the speakers of the first edition of NS Spain. NS Spain now is one of the best conferences in Europe. Do you think FrenchKit will ever be as good as Spain, or even better than Spain?
That's a great question.
So do we have your blessing?
Oh, now this is a provocative question.
Yes,
you do have my blessing, of course.
Thank you.
We'll see. I have high hopes for you guys. You wouldn't get 2 rounds of applauses if this wasn't great. So yeah.
About other language, they have kind of frameworks that provide some tools to simplify, for example, the providing help when you launch the command, and with, like, for example, false arguments. Do you know if we have some kind of tools already, or something that we're missing?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few libraries. I think Kyle Filler wrote CLI Kit for Swift. I wasn't like exploring on GitHub to see what's out there. I'm pretty sure there is more than one. But these ones are just always handled and parsed by Coco, no matter like.
Yeah.
How
Okay. But that's also probably something that is problematic when it comes to using those using a script. Using Swift server side is like you cannot really use. I mean, you cannot use Coco implementation of that. So maybe we will have to find another way to parse the arguments, more conventional maybe.
Yeah, of course. So maybe wasn't very clear, but this only parses one style of arguments with a dash and then name of the argument space value. Normally, you have to handle positional arguments, equal assignments, short and long flags if you're POSIX compliant. You got to handle defaults, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
I see.
there is a big space to have like good library.
To hack some stuff. Okay.
So you're receiving lots of congratulations because you kept the audience awake, even if it's 8.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so tired. Even if it's 6:45.
6:45 my
Yeah.
clock watch.
So yeah, and I guess it's all for
Yeah.
today.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank
thank
you,
you very
Marin.
much.
Thank you.